taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Okay, so we've got Mass Effect Trilogy remaster rumors flying around hot and heavy, and we're going to be talking about one that claims that remaster trilogies could be coming in October. Cyb is not convinced. We're going to dive into that. Update on the Skullgirls story, plus lots of Cyberpunk and Witcher news today. So welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast. I'm Ash, and I'm here as always with Cybsidian, and with Moontag as well, who's a regular here on Saturdays. This is a presentation of the Triple S League, your source for news, leaks, and analysis about games in the gaming industry, and apparently it's too early and I haven't had enough coffee yet. Welcome, September 5th, 2020. Good grief, we're 2/3 of the way through 2020. Bring on 2021. You guys think 2021 is going to be a slightly more palatable year?
Well, we are going to have the the mutant invasion then too. So I mean, it's kind of like a.
The mutants have already invaded a long time ago. Those bloody blue-eyed freaks. That's apparently it was a. Wait, was it blue eyes or was it blonde hair? That was like a mutation that happened tens of thousands of years ago. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I mean, I have to argue that because the modern geneticists most of the time have no idea what they're talking about. But
oh, those are funny.
Because one of the things that we know for sure, is that there used to be like more skin types, because pretty much every like ancient civilization records several, including hues of green and blue and purple.
Are you kidding me?
And so, no, I'm not kidding. This is like archaeologists know this and have known this for a while, and something happened and apparently cut off because like skin is capable of being almost any color on the spectrum. Like human skin has the capability of. It's why we can retain tattoos and other things and like that. But yeah, little bit of
this is all of a sudden. This is all of a sudden explaining why certain fetishes are very popular. Mm-hmm. But anyway, if you're listening live today, please say hello in the live chat. And if you are listening for the first time, I apologize for the conversation that just happened. This kind of is how the show goes. But please send us your comments and questions in the live chat. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. Please don't forget to slam that like button and tell YouTube that you appreciate this content. The like button likes it rough, so make sure you slam that thing. And also, if you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we appreciate your support there as well. And don't forget, you can listen to the live show every Wednesday and Saturday right here on the Triple S League YouTube channel. Get the latest info sooner. All right, everybody. So, a couple of quick stories, and then we'll jump into all of the Cyberpunk 2077 and Witcher news, all the stuff out from Projekt Red. They had their H1 2020 financial report and investor call, and there was some Q&A that happened there that revealed some very interesting things about Cyberpunk, plus about their recently announced Witcher game next-gen upgrade. So that's very cool. And it's especially awesome because if you already own The Witcher 3, you get it for free on any platform, which is just, another reason why we love CDPR. Mm-hmm. But of course, they're going to make their money off of that by, people. I mean, people are still continually buying the game. Like their Witcher 3 sales are going very well still, 5 years after the game's release, and making a next-gen version of it. New people are going to get into it. It's going to be great. All right, but anyway, quick update on the Skullgirls story that we talked about a little while back. So they're basically the head of the studio of the Lab Zero studio that was working on a Skullgirls game. A bunch of allegations came out about his treatment of staff and various other things. I'm not going to rehash all that, but a whole bunch of his staff left the studio. Well, apparently it's been reported now from animator Jonathan Kim on Twitter that the head of the studio there, he laid off the rest of the staff that hadn't left, and hasn't agreed to severance for them yet, but he's laid them all off. But there is a statement, on the record from Autumn Games and Hidden Variable. Autumn Games, who is the publisher that owns the Skullgirls IP. Hidden Variable is the studio working on the mobile version of the game. They say they plan to work with the many talented individuals who are leaving Lab Zero to build new Skullgirls content moving forward. So hopefully those folks, the developers working hard on that game, continue to have jobs and maybe can even continue working on the same game. Because yes, Lab Zero doesn't own the rights to Skullgirls. It's owned by the publisher. All right, so quick follow-up on that story I wanted to let you all know about. Now,
it's still really sad because I again, from what I know, I think there's some mental issues going on there. It's just a crap situation all around, and this is why, it's a crap situation all around.
Mm-hmm. All right, now there's a report out from Games Radar who are reporting on something that another journalist said on a podcast recently, that EA is reportedly planning to announce the Mass Effect Trilogy remaster in October. Not just announce it in October, but also release it in October. Now, there's been rumors flying around about this Mass Effect Trilogy remaster, and it's something that fans are very hungry for. They want the original Mass Effect games, remastered for the modern era. Very popular trilogy of games, and with Andromeda being such a disappointment, there's a real hunger for that. There's still a lot of hunger, there's a lot of love for the Mass Effect franchise. That hasn't gone away.
Mm-hmm.
But GameSpeak journalist Jeff Grubb explained on a recent podcast that he claims he knows the plan is for sure to announce it, or at least was to announce it in early October and release it in later October. But he qualifies that by saying, of course, with 2020 being the way it is, that could get pushed off and delayed. But he seems pretty certain. He says he's seen a ton of evidence to say that this was at least at one point the plan for EA to announce and release the Mass Effect Trilogy remaster in October. Now, this is, of course, take this with a grain of salt. This is one person claiming they've seen this evidence. But there have been, of course, rumors flying around about the Mass Effect Trilogy remaster for a while now. Now, Cyb, you're very skeptical of this.
I'm extremely skeptical. So there are a ton of people who have been wishing for this and wanting to see this and have been creating rumors that this is going to be a thing, despite the enormous challenges that we would face, that the studio would face trying to do this. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to replicate. It would take a significant amount of time because you got to remember the first game wasn't even built in the same engine as the other ones. So there's a huge amount of work that has to go into doing this. Just because you got the voice lines and all that stuff just doesn't mean that it's like, oh yeah, it's something that they can do in 5-10 minutes. Obviously I'm exaggerating there, but this is not something that you're going to be able to pull off typically. Not to say that it that it isn't being done and that they don't want to do it. Frankly put, there is an enormous amount of interest in Mass Effect still. There's still a lot of hardcore fans who want and who desire to see their game function on some level. And they are desperate for it. And I understand, because it's a good game, and it's a game that people are interested in, and it's a game that many people don't want to see wasted. I contend that this is one of the worst debacles in the gaming industry. You took Mass Effect, which was essentially the the most anticipated and hyped game of all time, as far as the franchise goes, that they just took and they just like basically just like ruined at the end of Mass Effect 3 and then with the preceding Andromeda game. And they had the ability to make this just a really, really renowned game, a really, really amazing game that would go on forever. And they absolutely trashed it. Like, they didn't trash it a little bit. They trashed it in an enormous amount that resulted in that basically has resulted in this game never essentially going to probably recover. If it could recover, it still could, and it could recover by doing a couple of things. It would have to really come out with probably an extremely well-made, super polished, tons of additional content, being able to flow from one major part of the game to the next trilogy, which is what they're talking about. But they would need to hammer that and just make that so good, so perfect. They would need to include the ability to mod it on PC. They would need to do, they would need to rebuild a lot of the combat system throughout the entire game to line it up, throughout the entire series, because the entire combat system is completely different from the first game to the second, and then largely from those to the third. I mean, the first one to the third is just it's massively different, not just a little bit different. It's enormously different, and you would have to just go through that and try to rebuild that completely. And it's not. I really don't think it's going to happen.
At all?
Not because I don't at all. Because there's a couple of like huge problems that they have. One, the Edmonton studio is extremely hard at work on Dragon Age, and that has been where they've been putting all of their resources and energy into that engine for a very long time, since Anthem, basically. Anthem itself has tried desperately to be rebuilt, and they're working on that, and all of my windows just closed. Wow, okay, good job, Chrome. You're super awesome. So yeah, no, there's just a massive hole in their resources.
Mm-hmm. Well, BioWare is busy, but what about the possibility of them having given? You were saying the Austin studio is working on is packed. Their schedule's packed too.
They're and they have been for a while. Now, could they have been hiring all this time for it? It's possible, and that is some of the evidence that people bring forward, is that they did go through a bit of a hiring spree. But I don't think it's enough to redo it, to completely reboot it, because again, you need to essentially rebuild the entire first game. Needs to be completely revamped from the ground up, including a lot of like the combat systems and all this other stuff, and it's a significant amount of work.
What about a different studio though? What if could they have handed it off to somebody, some non-BioWare studio?
That's possible, but you run the risk of having that original vision being significantly tainted. And this is what I would seriously be very afraid of if they were trying to go through with this by handing it off to another studio. The amount of problems that they would encounter, the amount of rewriting, and some of the other things that might show up that might make a lot of fans extremely upset is also significant. So where exactly we go from here, I'm not sure. I'm not positive. I'm not convinced that they have been working on something. I'm not convinced that they have been able to organize this all without going public on any of it. And then claiming that, oh yeah, it's going to be announced in October and released in October or November or something like that. Right now, if they had that, they would have been hyping it up for sure. Because EA, I mean, they hype everything, right? To the ends of the earth, they'll hype everything. And this is where I kind of really think that it falls apart, because they're suggesting that it's going to release and be announced and released within the span of a month. It's like, and again, if they were going to do this, if EA was going to do this, and they know how much people like the physical merchandise for Mass Effect, or maybe they figure right now nobody wants it. I would suspect EA to double down, triple down, and quadruple down on pouring finances and money into the idea of like trying to get as much like physical merchandise, collector's edition stuff, like statues, clothing, that kind of stuff. I suspect strongly that they would have been organizing that from the get-go. So,
Well, is it? I mean, it could just be the best kept secret in the industry, though.
it could be. They have done that before with Knights of the Old Republic. It was the best, worst kept secret. Sorry, it was the worst kept secret. So they've done the opposite of that. That's what I meant.
Okay. Well, yeah,
Because
it would be.
everybody knew they were working on an MMO and they were hiring people for it. It was so funny. It's like they were hiring people for that job, for the job of working on this KOTOR MMO, and people that they brought in. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. It's like they go through the experience. It's like, do you have experience with that? And out of curiosity, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything. But how experienced are you with the Star Wars lore, especially that revolving around KOTOR? Why are you guys working on KOTOR? No, we can't. Yeah, we're definitely not working on that. That's something that we are definitely not working on. But if you were to be hired, what skills and abilities could you bring to to fit that story
this
world?
is what we always talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, we always
talk about Star
about
Wars
it,
in the
right?
break room. See, that's so you gotta be up on your KOTOR lore. Yeah.
And I mean, that was ages ago, and it's really funny to kind of look back on it now. But still, this is unfortunately kind of where we're at right now. Is that this just it's just I really don't see this coming, because all of the normal things that I would expect, all of the normal things that I would normally have expected to hear about, most of them just aren't there. And I really hope it is, but the problem is that because of none of these other things that I've heard about, or you normally would see in the situation, all of that stuff that you are normally expected to see, because all of that is missing, I really actually legitimately worry about this actually being a real thing. Because if this is a real thing, then this means that the game that we're going to get is going to be piecemeal at best, and probably not very well done, and it's probably going to be a cash grab if this is the case, and that is going to be a travesty. Because it'll more or less finish off Mass Effect completely. And I'm extremely serious. All of the stuff that I would expect to hear,
All of
if this was
the
being done
surrounding
right,
stuff. Yeah, like all of the
like for
all of the
example,
peripheral.
yeah, for example, if they were going to do this right, like really good, and just do it, just really bang it out of the park, they would be they would be releasing this after all of the new consoles came out. It would be released next gen. But they aren't. If they're not doing that, then we're dealing with a current gen system that dates back to 8 years ago for the consoles. So that means this game is essentially runs on 8-year-old content. That means that there's no new stuff. That means there's no like amazing ray tracing. There's no like 8K graphics with integrated systems. There's no any of the stuff that you could name that's all in next gen stuff isn't going to be here for this gen. Isn't going to be here for this release. Or it might be, maybe it could be, but again, I really doubt it. And I think what we have had happen is that because this is such a beloved series, and because everybody wants this so bad, there's a whole bunch of people who are actively, and I mean, I've fallen for this before too, You want something to happen so bad that you're willing to like find any example of it. You know, a lightning strike struck on the north side of the building, you know, therefore that means that obviously there's a Thor game coming. It's like, you know, that kind of like wishful thinking, right? It gets to the point where I think a lot of people have been like, I know for sure that two of the rumors were started by somebody in the industry who doesn't have contacts, and that those rumors found their way to a website, and then that two other people then looked up that information and cited that information that then got back around to the first person who then said, "See, I'm right." And then other people picked up on that story and continued that story saying, "See, this guy said this was going to happen, then he was proven right by these other people who also said it was going to happen, and now we're looking at it and we think it's really going to happen." And then another person comes in and goes, "Oh, look, that looks like it's going to happen." Then it's cyclical.
Like the info just went in a circle, basically.
Yeah. It's is it cyclical? No,
Cyclical. Yeah.
Cyclical, yeah.
It's cyclical. It's just they start the rumor and then it goes around this big thing and it comes back around to them and they're like, "Oh my God, see, I was right." And I know that this has happened in at least 2 cases, for sure, and that the particular person that has been harping on this, essentially like started to, you remember that South Park episode where Kyle's family moves out to San Francisco? And they all start sitting around, you know, having these wine parties where they have these empty glasses that are filled with.
Yeah, we don't need to rehash.
And he's just like, "Oh yes, this is so right. Yes, this is what's been happening in a lot of cases."
I was trying to avoid the mental picture, but yes, got your point there. So I think the major takeaway is be careful of these rumors.
I hope it's right. I hope they're doing it right. And if they are, they've certainly done the best job at keeping this super secret. But I suspect that if this is true, it's actually a bad thing because it means that they have done a very rushed, very kind of crap job on it, and it's not going to be very good. And if that is the case, it's going to be worse than if we hadn't had it at all. So.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, a couple of comments in the chat here I wanted to read. So, Dragon Age is made in Canada, eh? Says Notional. Does that mean it will be renamed to Moose Age? Yeah, well, Dragon Age, original Mass Effect, well, even Andromeda. Everything old school BioWare, made in Canada. Source of pride for us, for sure. We love the classic BioWare content, and it was really cool when I was a kid, you know, playing Baldur's Gate 2. Of course, how could I forget that one with 3 coming right out? That like the game was developed very, very close to where I was currently living at the time, and so I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." Yeah. So, but on that, you know, to that note though, I would play like a Greedfall style RPG set in Canada called Moose Age, with like ancient mystical moose characters and like, I don't know.
I was wondering where you were going with this for a second.
Other folklore. Yeah.
You're walking through like the woods. There's snow everywhere. You can barely hear a sound, and then suddenly you feel something watching you. You look off behind you, and there it is. This majestic moose is about to run you over.
Okay, we need someone to code this game. Mootag will write it with Cyb and stuff. Yeah. All right, there we go.
I just need to just in case anybody is thinking about coming to Canada and exploring some of the majestic mooses that you might encounter. For the love of God, do not. These are not friendly animals. These are not friendly animals, not in the slightest. They will. Not only are they like not super friendly, they are in some cases absolutely terrifying. They go through this process during the springtime where they grow antlers, and then their antlers are like, it's all covered in like this nice fuzzy stuff, and it's quite fleshy. but then once the bone like hardens in, then the moose, deer also do this and elk also do this, but the moose then like proceed to like deflesh their antlers, which results in probably one of the most horrifying things you will ever encounter in nature. Um, and
Think zombie
yeah,
animal.
like there's stories of like zombie moose that have like come out of the forest and proceeded to terrify children for ages. Yet this is where these things come from. Not only that, I also have to they're uh that you take the standard vehicle and you put it against a moose. The moose sometimes wins and walks away. Just so you know, like lots of people have run into deer, know people who've run into deer, and it's like, oh, I ran into a deer, and oh man, it bent
Well, running into a
the
deer,
hood, and
can destroy your car.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
a moose,
But
yeah,
a moose can destroy your car and then also walk
yeah.
away.
The deer, if you total your car on a deer, that deer has probably been destroyed
Yeah,
as well.
it's very dead. But you can like have your vehicle totaled by a moose that just doesn't like your car.
It's
So,
startling. It's startling when you see one up close because they you don't think they're actually that big when you see pictures, but then they're that big. They're that big. Anyway, we should move on here. You're listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. We're going to get on to CD Projekt Red news right away here. Okay, we've got people planning in the chat. We've got people planning this game now. We've got weapons in Moose Age, syrup sword, ice cycle bullets, bear poop bombs. Okay.
Oh, it would be purple because of all the blueberries.
Yeah. Robin Green wants to know if the moose is driving a pickup truck. Well, I don't know. Guess depends what direction we want to go with this. All right. Let's move on to the Cyberpunk and the other CD Projekt Red news because there's quite a bit to talk about. So, first of all, The Witcher remaster, or they're not calling it a remaster, but CD Projekt Red announced this week that they are working on a next generation edition of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. They want to take advantage of next gen hardware, so they're bringing in a range of visual and technical improvements, including ray tracing, faster load times. Presumably, now the announcement doesn't say this, but I'm going to assume they're going to upgrade the texture resolution, things like that. Just really bring it into the next gen. But that part is currently speculation. The only features they say for sure are ray tracing and faster load times. I'd be disappointed if they didn't do some sort of model upgrades and texture upgrades, but we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be coming to PC, Xbox Series X, and PlayStation 5 with a free update for everyone who already owns the game on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. So if you own it on PlayStation 4, and you update to a PlayStation 5, not only can you play your current version of The Witcher 3 on that platform, I believe, but like when the next generation version releases, which we don't have a release date yet, but when that releases, you get it for free. Same on PC, same on Xbox. And on PC, it's basically going to be a patch applied to the game, so it'll just automatically update, and you won't even think about it. It'll just happen. So that is pretty awesome. A fantastic move by CD Projekt Red, in my opinion. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is a fantastically popular game. It's a fantastic game. It looks amazing already. So, I mean, I cannot wait to see it with ray trace lighting, with... I wonder if... Now, they probably wouldn't go to like a... It would probably be too much work to go to like a... No, actually, it wouldn't work at all, come to think of it, for them to go to a no loading screens system like Cyberpunk 2077. They'd have to completely rebuild the game. But really fast load times, like that's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. There's always some things that they can because it is their own engine, and there might be certain things that they can transfer from one to the other, backward compatibility essentially. for certain things. Like ray tracing has obviously been one of them. I said on the Sunday show on the community podcast that it is not necessarily guaranteed that they will be able to come up with the best um, usage of ray tracing, just because you know um, you can put ray tracing into a game pretty easily, but you can but having that optimized for both calculations, so like the hardware aspect of things, the software side of things, but then also just have it maximized for like the aesthetic look of it. Those are three different things that vary. Like a game might be able to put in like a 50% level into all three of those things and have it just on. And a good current example of this is World of Warcraft. It is capable of they have essentially crammed in the ray tracing ability, but it's not that great. It is not even a tenth of how good ray tracing looks in Minecraft. Minecraft ray tracing makes the game look absolutely phenomenal. Um, and that's a little bit of luck. That's a little bit of luck, and the fact that when they started working on it, they actually started to like try to like encourage those kinds of systems. Um, so in other games, they do not have that level of like proficiency up, and that just takes some time in programming and lighting artists and whatnot, and then you can start getting those really cool effects, and then you can start to improve the graphics, um, completely based off of them and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, totally possible, and totally something that may end up actually working quite well. So this is something that
Hmm.
you can, we can look forward to, because obviously a company like CDPR is going to accelerate these things, and they are going to perfect these things quite quickly. And so we will end up seeing, you know, and like I suspect that what they have available right now is going to be triple, quadruple, or higher quality of that than when they actually put out the game. So yeah, I am totally excited for this, because I feel that this is putting the game into a new direction that is actually quite beneficial and quite healthy, and I think that this is nothing but a literal good thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Kikas TG also points out that since Witcher 3 currently does not have resolution scaling, DLSS would do a good job there. Yes, absolutely. They could. We talked about this on the Wednesday podcast. It's just the amazing advancements in AI graphics technology that where DLSS, can come in and improve, basically upscale the graphics to be as good, if not maybe even better than if they had been natively rendered at that resolution. So it's fantastic what they can do. Plus, I imagine,
Yeah.
like, knowing CDPR, they're not going to half-ass this. They're going to go in, look at all the locations. They're going to turn on the ray tracing and be like, okay, we got to tweak these to make it look right, right? Move lamps around, do things like that. So I think it's going to look fantastic. And yes, to whoever asked, so yes, Ali, this upgrade is free if you already own the game, right? And I think so. Where they're hoping to make money off this is just continually, increasing the lifespan of the game, continuing to get people to buy the game. In fact, they basically say that directly in the investors call that we're going to go through in a few minutes here. So that is pretty awesome. But of course, what are we most interested in and excited for? Well, of course, Cyberpunk 2077. So the H1 2020 financial report / investor call / all the financial things they do, letting investors know how the company's doing and answering their questions and stuff like that. That took place this week, and it's all public record. And we learned some very interesting things from that. We know exactly how many people were given a hands-on preview of Cyberpunk 2077 so far. 120. Now, I don't know if that is low. It sounds low, but I don't know. Maybe you can tell me, Saib. Is that a lower than expected number?
It's
At
certainly
this point?
lower than what would have happened if the whole 2020 thing was a little bit different and missing the big disruption thing.
Yeah, it's true. And they pointed out also that
Hugely, yeah.
it was actually quite a lot of work to get that many people together from several
Mhm.
different countries. Like they didn't get them together, but they in some cases they traveled, and for the folks in Poland, they were that was much easier, but they went to other countries as well.
Well, Nvidia originally, I think their plan for the whole for their announcement, if you were to go back like 8 months, would have been to probably showcase this at E3 and Gamescom in a giant room on a giant 8K or 12K uh, monitor and showcase all of their stuff, but and have hundreds and hundreds of people see that live and then react to that live, and then talk about it live. But instead, they had to settle for four influencers going in and then just recording their faces,
Yeah.
which of course is not the preferred outcome.
No,
All
it's
right,
like yeah. Let's show them reacting to this amazing 8K
Mhm.
graphics that we're
that
streaming at 1080p. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that this is the scenario that we find ourselves in with the whole, 2020 year and all of the stuff that goes into it. Unfortunately, there's some oddities and there's some going to be some difficulties naturally when it comes to some of the planned content and drops and stuff like that, and it's too bad because obviously things would be a whole lot better and there would be a whole lot more people seeing this game and writing about it and all that kind of stuff, and that really really sucks because probably would know a handful more people, um, if they had managed to get their hands on it. So
All right. But of course, the question everyone wants the answer to is, will the game be delayed again? And we discussed this when we passed the 90-day mark, like the 90-day
mhm.
before the release date mark, and said that it's very, very, very unlikely that it'll be delayed at this point because they kind of have to lock in their manufacturing of the physical units at 90 days before release. So that was a good hint that it wasn't going to be delayed, but now they've basically come out and confirmed that no more delays. Adam Kaczynski has said a few things on this. For one thing, they've started preparation for final certification. They're getting ready to send that build out. He said they are on track for 19 November, and they also have the next gen version scheduled for 2021. But here's a direct quote. 19th of November is the only date we have, and we will deliver. I don't see any chances to have another date. This is the only date the whole company is working on, from development to marketing. So that's directly from Adam Kaczynski, guy who probably knows what he's talking about, considering he's the CEO of the company. So there it is. No more delays. He was asked, are there any risks beyond your control that could still delay the Cyberpunk 2077 launch? One of the investors
I
asked.
love questions like that. It's like, oh, is there any chance of it? Well, I mean, sure, a meteorite could come out
Yeah.
and take out half the planet. The I was gonna say something. I mean, seriously, the second coming of Snoopy, and literally anything, right? The an explosive rift that took out Atlantis. Like seriously, anything, sure. We don't like. Why do they let them ask these stupid questions? So yes, of course there might be some stuff, but you know, what's the chances of that? Not high. Not high right now. Very, very unlikely. So thank goodness for that.
Indeed. Okay. Some other questions that were asked of the. It was CD. It was sorry, Adam Kaczynski there with a couple of other of the higher ups at the company. They were asked, is Spocko working on anything else? Spocko is the studio that developed the Witcher 3 Monster Hunter game, the mobile game that was just recently announced. Now, they were asked if Spocko was working on anything else, and the answer was no, but the wording... Now, this could be... They're not native English speakers, and...
we run into this problem all the time.
Yeah. The wording was somewhat ambiguous. It could be interpreted as, well, there's nothing official or nothing to announce. Maybe they have something in the planning stage.
In answer, yes, they have been working on other things, and they have some people at the studio who are working on some other projects. Not everybody, these are not primary projects of that studio, most likely, and they are no doubt, obviously, utilizing their skills and abilities in a number of different ways. I suspect, and this is where you can never positively say this as a studio, because, for example, each studio typically has like three or more artists who are working on like concept artists, and so they sit down with the creator, the designer, the chief gameplay guy or girl or whatever, and they kind of talk things through, and they kind of like, and I've done this process a number of times before, and I very much enjoy it, where you're sitting down with them and you're just saying, okay, I need you to make me a creature that looks like this, and then you go through like 10 different iterations on that thing. Make this hand smaller, make this hand, like, give them a little bit longer fingers, do this here, do that there, and that's the process in which they like finalize the concept for the art, and then the 3D graphics guys go in and they try to make it look as close to that representation as they can. So none of those people work on the same project typically at the same time as the bulk of the other studio, because they're concept artists. You don't need a concept artist for the majority of the content that's being shipped out with the base packet, the base game of Cyberpunk 2077. Not anymore. They are probably working on expansions, or they're working on the next Witcher concept game, which they may or may not have started any work on at all. And because there's one or two people maybe at the Stocko studio that were doing this and that kind of came over with them, they might now be working on that kind of stuff for the main studio. So that's how that works. And they're very rarely, almost never is the entire company working on the same project. Almost never. A handful of studios who make one project, period. Yes, that's true. But this is not a company that makes one project, period. They're working on several different projects all at the same time. They're probably popping in to do several like cards and Gwent and a couple of other things, because that's an obvious like gimme, right? Because it's like that is a game that they're always adding new stuff to. So that's how and why some of the wording may be that way, but it also might be that way because they're actually working on another project which we've been hearing rumors about forever, and they can't confirm nor deny that at all. So, yeah.
All right.
That's how that goes.
Speaking of expansions, the guys, the CD Projekt Red guys, were asked how many DLCs can we expect Cyberpunk 2077 to have. Now, they didn't answer this exactly, but they said to expect a similar path to The Witcher 3 after release, and actually to expect more. So that was an interesting statement. But they also said that all of the upcoming post-release content, any DLCs or expansions that they're going to be releasing for Cyberpunk 2077, those are all going to be revealed pre-release of Cyberpunk 2077. So we're actually going to know about the DLC and expansions for Cyberpunk 2077 before Cyberpunk 2077 gets out, which is awesome, but also annoying because it just reminds me that Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to be out already, and then was supposed to be out this month, and now is not till November. But that's okay. I know it's going to be a great game. Willing to wait for it, but yes, we're going to know about that post-release content within the next couple of months here.
Mm-hmm.
They were also...
And that'll be... Yeah, I'm really excited to see where they're going with that because there's so much room that they can go in. I didn't necessarily believe the whole space thing when I heard about it to begin with, but I mean, it could happen.
Well, they have that orbital air space center built onto the map there. And it doesn't seem to be part of the base game. Like, there's not any indication you can go there. We don't really know what that's all about. I suspect maybe there's some expansion content happening there. That's a suspicion. That's not from any sources or anything. That's just my own personal suspicion of like they have it there. Either it's just a giant set piece to remind people that, oh yeah, space travel is a thing in Cyberpunk. But it seems like a missed opportunity if they don't use that as some kind of...
It's not space travels per se. Like, they're not, like, going outside the solar system.
But, like, space travel...
They're on the moon, and they're barely going to Mars. So.
Well, that's still space travel. I mean, not, like... Not interstellar, but interplanetary is still space travel.
Mm-hmm. I really like this comment from Time Being in the chat here, because this would make a really great DLC. She says, I wonder if CDPR would be good at making romanceable dudes. I want male cyber yen.
Male cyber yen. Well, definitely something modders will probably do. I'm sure there's going to be 500 Siri mods, like, day one.
Well, not day one, but,
I'm exaggerating slightly, but yeah.
Within a month or two, yeah. I mean, this is highly, highly likely.
Shout out to Neon Arcade in the chat. Great Cyberpunk YouTuber that we work with, if you're not familiar with him. All right, so other questions they were asked about when can we expect discounts on the price of Cyberpunk 2077. They said, well, they're not planning any promotional discounts anytime soon. If they do happen, they'll be small. Just like with The Witcher, it's still selling for full price, and people are buying it. So that's more of just a kind of a... I don't know if that's interesting to any of you, but that's a question one of the investors had. They also asked about the multiplayer and how aggressive they're going to be with monetization. That's exactly that's how the question was phrased. How aggressive is the monetization going to be in the multiplayer version of Cyberpunk 2077? Which, if you're not familiar, this is a separate game that's going to be coming out down the road. Obviously,
was originally because we kind of broke this little bit of a couple stories on this. Was originally obviously planned for release. But due to the changing scope and size of the single player game, it got moved over. It was not scrapped, like their current concept on it. They had originally had one kind of concept where it was going to be drop in, drop out kind of gameplay, like seamless multiplayer, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
All right. So Blissful Soul keeps asking, are there going to be gags in the game, and why are people so afraid to have gags in their games? Is the most recent iteration of that question. Do you mean, like, are you talking, like, what kind of gag are you talking about? Like,
He's
gag?
obviously talking about, like, the gags that you pull on people, like a pie to the face,
Oh, like, yeah, like okay, yeah, like late
yeah, he's
night
definitely
TV
not
show
talking
shtick
about.
or...
It's definitely not talking about round red balls tied to a black thing rope kind of stuff. Obviously not that.
Clearly.
That would be ridiculous and definitely like not YouTuber friendly or YouTube advertiser friendly.
Like everlasting gobstoppers?
Yes. That's exactly what they are, Moontag. They are everlasting gobstoppers from the wholesome world of Willy Wonka. All right.
Mhm.
As long as you're not watching the Johnny Depp version. Okay, so that would disturb. So that no, I won't go there. Okay, so in response to this question about how aggressive are they going to be with the monetization for the multiplayer Cyberpunk, Adam Kaczynski, I copied down several of his quotes verbatim. He said, "We are never aggressive toward our fans. We treat them fair. We are friendly. But you can expect great things to be bought. The goal is to design the monetization in a way that makes people happy spending money. It's about giving the feeling of value for money."
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at this. I'm pretty hopeful and confident that they are going to do a decent job with
Yeah.
this.
Well, this lines up with what we've reported previously, that yes, there's going to be monetization, obviously. There's going to be microtransactions, but not loot boxes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. Sometimes those two terms get conflated with one another, but they're not. It's not the same thing. So we're not talking about. What I take from this is yes, there's going to be stuff you can buy, probably cosmetic stuff, and it's not going to be like randomized pay to win stuff. Same with Witcher 3 Monster Hunter, or Monster Slayer, sorry. The monetization strategies for that. They said it's too early to say exactly what they're going to have for monetization for Monster Slayer, but like with the Cyberpunk multiplayer, it's not going to be aggressive. Now, do we know? Okay, is the multiplayer Cyberpunk going to be free to play, or is it going to be a game? Like, is it going to be a game you purchase?
That's a good question.
We don't know. We don't know that yet. There's something to be said for having a free-to-play multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely something to be said for that. So,
I hope if they're going to be putting a lot of microtransactions in, I hope that it is free to play, or at least a very reasonably priced game, like a more in the $20 region as opposed to the $60 region. We'll have to see though. That's fairly far down the road. All right, so we've covered that. They confirmed, they reconfirmed that all owners of The Witcher 3 get a free upgrade to the next-gen version on their current platform. The game price will not increase for new buyers. So the base game price for The Witcher 3 is going to remain what it is now. But if you buy it, you are getting the next-gen version, not just the original version. If you're buying new for the first time.
Well, that's nice, at least.
All right, so that's all of the key info that came out of that. If you do want to hear the entire thing, the entire presentation given to shareholders plus the Q&A, the Q&A was about 40 minutes. The presentation prior to that was about 20 minutes. You can find that on CD Projekt's website. And I'm just looking through to make sure that I am not missing anything, but I don't think I'm missing anything. So, what are your thoughts on all of this info taken together?
it's pretty interesting. Like we're obviously going to be seeing a significant push for them with this multiplayer game and with the Monster Slayers. And then we're also seeing their renewed focus on creating an environment in which The Witcher 3 continues to excel because it continues to be a very good seller. It continues to move a number of a massive number of units every year, and it's been only continuing to get better and better in that regard. So as far as like a long-term investment, most games, I mean, you put out there was one game that was put out recently, I don't know if you've heard about it, but it was It was received. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is the best game of our generation. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so worthwhile. It's the greatest game ever of our generation." And it sold a lot of day one units. A lot of day one units. And now its sales numbers have dropped off horrifically, horrifically. And there's a lot of people that are extremely concerned about this, that work at said studio. So yes, this is
right, that golfing simulator. Okay, yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it has been getting worse and worse and worse, and it is couldn't happen to nicer people, right? So yeah, this is not surprising at all. Essentially, for those of us who are watching them, it was like, of course it's going to have high day one sales. Of course it's going to sell well, but it's not going to sell well, permanently. It's going to be, it's just going to kind of fall down the whole of the thing. Anytime that you have a horribly written story that has absolutely like just atrocious writing, eventually the game is just forgotten, because that's just the way that this works. It's just the way that the industry works. And we've seen this with movies before. There are some movies, I was thinking about one where it's like this is going to be the greatest movie ever made. It's going to be the best movie. And so think of all these wonderful people who are, strangely enough now, majority of them are now, either have been outed as predators or were predators during the filming. And now it's like nobody talks about that movie anymore. And that's probably a good thing. So yeah.
Well, we're through
But
this.
no, The Witcher is not like that. The Witcher has been doing absolutely solid. And
The Witcher's amazing, and I can't wait to get back in. That game is so huge. I have not gotten through the whole thing yet.
Same.
I love it, and the only reason I stopped playing it is because I had to play other things, because it's kind of my, what I do here with YouTube. But I've been looking for an excuse to get back into it. So this next gen reboot, it's not even a reboot. It's an upgrade of the existing game. It's a good excuse to get back into that. Check out what it looks with RTX on and the other upgrades that they're putting into it. I think it's going to be awesome.
I'm really looking forward to that, because it's like we're starting to see a real push in that direction. I can't wait for there's a couple of major projects that the community has been working on in regards to Witcher 3, and I'm really looking forward to those as well, because this is the beauty of gaming. It's so wonderful, it's so beautiful when you get the community doing things because they are passionate about a project. That's where I think you have the best. Like it really is the best of the community when they get involved in this kind of stuff. So, yes.
So we're through the stories that we had planned for the day, but we're only at an hour. So I thought maybe we could talk briefly about Marvel's Avengers. I want to know if anybody in the live chat right now has been playing it. What are your thoughts on it? Drop your comments in the live chat, or head over to the Discord server to the content requests channel and let us know your thoughts there. I know some folks from our community have been playing it. I want to know your thoughts. I've been seeing mixed impressions of it from mainstream media and other YouTuber impressions. Some have been saying it's just a safe game that's kind of corporate gruel, and it's going to be heavily monetized. Some have been saying, oh, it's actually pretty good. But
I've heard the monetization on the game is nightmarish.
Yeah.
I have not picked up the game myself.
Yeah. Have you followed any of the coverage on it, Cyb, that you could give some thoughts or opinions on it?
It's just terrible. Like, I mean, that's as far as I probably, like, that's as far as I looked into it. It was like, oh, it came out and it was really bad. Well, big shocker there that a big corporate studio that makes nothing really truly unique. It's all very safe and corporate. Is absolutely taking people for a ride when it comes to the monetization factor of the game. Not surprising at all. And this is why one of the many reasons why I was like, don't buy this game. Don't get this game. Don't pick this up. This is garbage. Like it's just not worth it. It just really isn't worth it. So ultimately, yeah, just kind of move on.
Blissful Soul says, I played the beta when it was free, and I'm conflicted on it. Nick Boots, it's a poor man's Arkham Origins. Jazz the Cool Transformer, repetitive gameplay. Game Notes says that Polly just wrote a review. I was hoping Polly's would be here to give his impressions, because I know he's been playing it. It looks like he's not. Looks like he's not here today.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad game. It's not like a terrible game. It's just not a very good one.
Yeah. Rensten says Polly's was playing it and likes it. Okay, but Rensten is leery on it. Okay. Baron Munchausen says shite game. Okay. No. Notional says, I hope it was result in enough money to make Deus Ex, though. Notional always with the clever takes.
Oh man, I'm with you. Man, there are some games that I really wish could just get remade. Like, where's Jill of the Jungle? Like, why can't we have another Jill of the Jungle?
Yes.
Ah, that would be so much fun. And then Jagged Alliance. I want a return to the Jagged Alliance franchise. I really, really do. Perfect Dark. I hear we're getting that. Some good rumors going around about that. And then there's a handful of other projects that, like, man, I really wish we could. Darklands. I would love an actual like return to the Darklands lore, because that one. I mean, sure, there's lots of games that are kind of like Darklands, and they have they can kind of offer the same kind of thing. But man alive, I would kill to get a good like modern update to that game. Like it was like it had a lot of potential, and it was really deep. And then there's other games like I know one day I'm gonna look back and feel really sad. Like I feel angry about it right now, but I'm gonna feel just horrendously sad about the loss of EverQuest, because it's the way that project has now ended, and all future, like, we're not getting another EverQuest probably ever. And we're definitely not getting it within the confines of what the original like creators of that wanted it to turn into. So that's very sad. It's very, very sad.
Right, and somebody just mentioned in the chat, we are it has been, I don't know if you would call this an announcement, or this is a claim from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, that Ubisoft is planning to announce a Prince of Persia remake at the upcoming Ubisoft Forward event, which basically is happening on September 10th. So, coming from Schreier, it's probably pretty solid info. Yes, and retailer max.com.gt recently published and then pulled a listing for Prince of Persia remake for the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. So there's a bit more evidence there. Just reading this, I'm just reading up on this as we're live here, so I don't have the information fresh in my head. That could be interesting. And yes, actually, if there's one game I would love a remake for, it would be the original Deus Ex. That game is fantastic. One of my favorite games of all time, but it has not. The gameplay doesn't hold up. Like, you go back and play it now, it's really clunky and weird.
It's brutal.
But the game itself was fantastic. Like the story, the atmosphere, the ambiance, the mechanics built into it. The game was so good, but yeah, the actual controls and gameplay are terrible. By modern standards, like at the time they were fine. At the time they were standard.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a comment from where was it here? Kaiser Soze. They mentioned, I love The Secret of Monkey Island. And I was like, yes, I played that remake. And like they have the option to switch back and forth between like what it looked like originally, all pixelated, and then to like remake, which is like all like polished up cartoony, and it's so much fun. The dialogue is still great, and it's such a fun, it's a point and click.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, unless there's anything else, we should probably just wrap up for today. Nothing else on the docket to talk about. But yeah, good show today, folks.
It is a holiday long weekend, so we're going to be doing some extra streaming today, tomorrow, and Sunday probably in the Discord, and we might do some on a couple other places too. So yeah, join the Discord and hang out because we're going to be doing some fun stuff.
Absolutely, I haven't plugged the Discord yet today, but if you enjoy the conversation in the live chat today, definitely join our Discord server. Keep the conversation going. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about. Stay up to date about what we're doing here at the Triple S League, but also the community has really taken off. There's so much going on all the time now. There's people streaming, there's people talking in the voice rooms, some great communities. There's groups of people who get together weekly to play various games. Tons of
Quiplash, I believe, tomorrow morning usually.
There's Quiplash. There's people playing Sea of Thieves all the time. If you want to get in on that, if you enjoy that game, I believe they're playing right. I know Game Notes is playing that right now. This little Steam thing popped up in the corner of my screen. So yeah, definitely check that out. If there's a game you want to get into with people, just go post an announcement somewhere and find people to play with. So it's I love what's going on there. We're working hard to keep it going, keep it a fun and just very positive place. And the link to that is in the description below. Thank you everybody for listening today. Thank you for the great conversation in the chat. Thank you for supporting the show by listening live or after the facts. Don't forget to slam that like button if you haven't already. Please do that. And, of course, subscribe. Leave comments below. Hit the notification bell. All of that tells the YouTube algorithm that this is worthwhile content. Helps us expand and grow. And we really appreciate that. And I also want to extend a special thank you to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who help to make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon: Robin, Shua82, Time Bean, Schoolaman, Lady Reaver, and our 2 anonymous supporters at that level. Thank you all so very much. Our channel members right here on YouTube: Mr. Pazdzernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, Terror K, Somnolence, and Let On. Thank you all as well. Different perks for Patreon and channel members that are available, but definitely come join the community. It's a lot of fun. The Triple S Legion, as it's been dubbed. All right, everybody. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Subsidian and Moontag, thank you all so much for listening. We will talk to you again very soon.